It's one thing to talk about triads, it's another thing to demonstrate their use. That's what we're going to do today, so let's get started. So this is really super speeded up because yesterday was Saturday and I like to do, especially what I like to do is my own choice on Saturday. Every day is my choice. I don't know why I say Saturday. It just feels free in some way. But I've been watching, that British series you can find on YouTube, The Best Portrait Painter of the Year, which I am not, but I find it really inspiring because you watch these people's progress, and then I always think to myself, well, what would I do if I'm in the room? I know, and I want to try it. So I got out a Tom Petty photograph. Admittedly, this is when he was young, and according to his eyes, I think he was maybe smoking something special on that day. But the fun thing about Tom Petty's face is, of course, that it doesn't fit the exact norms. It's a slightly feminine face, and the proportions are he has a long face, so he doesn't have the standard proportions. And he's Tom Petty. I mean, that's really the reason why I did want to do it. So this is super speeded up using my usual method of darks, medium, and light value dabs. Most of him is in the mid-tones because he's a Caucasian male. And at this point, I do leave the whites of my paper white. You know, my sign off is keep the whites of your paper white and your paints wet. But overnight, I decided that I didn't like it so well. It didn't hold together so well. That's often the case. You know, you have to reevaluate what you've done. And we're getting to the triad. I'm getting there because I wanted to show how to put a triad in for the background. So I got up this morning and I squirted out these colors. We have a burnt sienna, a alizarin red, and ultramarine blue. So they're very potent at this point, and I make 3 puddles of them. And now I'm going to apply the triad. Now the reason I wanted to show this is because it involves careful brushwork, and this is what you kind of have to practice. So I have the paint, but I'm watching the drips at the same time. Now I know people do portraits and the drips go everywhere, but I'm a little OCD, and I don't really I love it in other people's work, but I don't want to see it in my work. The other thing that you have to do here is keep those colors really separate and really clean. And I'll show you in a minute how I do that. So now with a dry brush that I've wiped on a towel, I'm picking up any drips. Because if I don't pick up those drips and let the brush soak them up, what's going to happen is they'll balloon back. You know that balloon thing that happens when you hit a dry edge and so it balloons back. All right, that's what I was going to show. That cloth was not an accident. So I went into the blue, and then I went into the water and wiped my brush. Then into the red, into the water, wiped my brush. Into the burnt sienna, into the water, and I'm wiping my brush. Back, going into the red, and then I'll go to, I'll wipe my brush, and finally I'll go to the ultramarine blue. So when I'm doing a triad, what I tend to do is go according to value. So I will do, I'll start with the burnt sienna, for example, and then segue into the ultramarine, into the alizarin red, and then into the ultramarine blue. And you can see that they're kind of meeting and mingling behind him. And I kind of like that. This is one of my favorite dark triads to use. I use this especially in, oh my gosh, in dogs. I've painted a lot of dogs. I painted many, many, many dogs. And because overnight I was not happy with leaving the whites of the paper white, even though I say to do it, I just felt like the forms didn't coalesce really well. So I mixed up a very light wash of probably, it's probably an alizarin red, and put that over his entire face. And then I felt really happy with it. So anyway, that's how to put in a triad. It's not just a question of picking which colors to use. It's also, oh, I decided I wanted his eyes to be bluer. That's because I love him so much. And also, I forgot what I was saying. Oh well, doesn't matter. I just want to demonstrate how to put in a triad, because it's not just about choosing the colors of what triad to put in. There actually is sort of a technical way to put it in. And I don't like to get bogged down in technicalities. You know, when you pick up these watercolor books especially, it's loaded with technicalities. You know, you can almost list that don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. It goes on forever. I once made a list of all the things I wasn't supposed to do. You know, there were like 25 things I was supposed to remember not to do. And meanwhile, I'm just trying to paint a painting. I thought, oh, I got to get this out of my head. I just got to paint the way way my oil painters paint. They look at the forms and they put the paint on. It's just sometimes watercolor is too technique driven. So there's an example of how to put a triad into the background of of a subject. And of course, it could be used in a subject. So remember to keep the whites of your paper white, your paints wet, mats for value, mix for color. And please join my YouTube channel and tell a friend about it. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.